Yeah.
So, one thing I wanted to mention is just kind of from the amount of time I've known you, I've seen you help people start the same kind of company that you have, trucking companies. Why? And why do you not worry that they're going to compete with you directly, or basically take money out of your company's pocket,
Or
compete with you directly,
or beat you.
or beat you?
You know, if they beat me, then I did something right. I trained them well.
Let's kind of get into it. Let's start with you. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for coming onto the show. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, my name is Oleg Stepanyuk, and I'm the operations manager of Advantage Trucking.
Being
Sure,
humble.
that's a
being
very
humble.
humble way of putting it. AKA owner of Advantage Trucking.
One of them, yeah.
Well,
Yes.
still being a humble one of them. Okay, sure. Let's say that. You're an owner of Advantage Trucking. What is Advantage Trucking? What do they do?
Well, it's a motor carrier. We do we provide transportation services. We haul perishable freight across the United States.
Mm.
And roughly, how many people employed? What are?
Well, right now we have probably around 15 people in the office, in dispatch, logistics, operations, maintenance capacities like that. And I would say probably 75 drivers or so, give or take.
All right, so you're just under that 100 employee
the exact
mark.
number. We're altogether probably be just under that, yeah.
Wow. About to be a medium-sized business then, huh? Not really a small business at this point.
And how old is the business at this point?
The business, we established it on November 12th of 2012.
2012.
It'll be 10 years anniversary here pretty soon.
Wow.
11, 12.
Yeah, what were you doing before you started this company?
Well, before Advantage Trucking, I managed a employment agency called Work USA.
Mm-hmm.
And the mission was to help people to find jobs, to hook up those companies who are seeking quality employees with qualified people that are able to perform those jobs.
Mm-hmm. I feel like you're pitching Work USA here a little bit.
Work USA is out of business.
It is?
Like
Not quite.
Well,
but,
they're not.
They've downsized. They're
heavily.
Heavily downsized, yeah.
So after you left, they started downsizing, huh?
Actually, that's not far-fetched. That's not an untrue statement.
Well, it wasn't just me. It was me and my
A
partner.
couple people left, yeah.
Two key people left, and they were not able to find equal replacement. But I think it was timing too, because one of the reasons. I mean, maybe we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but one of the reasons, I guess, to change the line of the business was that I sensed that you have seasons in life, and I just sensed that the season for Work USA is ending. Mm-hmm. And there was multiple things that were showing that. And one of them was, the employees that I was able to get for those companies like 10 years before were of different caliber, different quality. I was getting to the point where it was very frustrating that people, and you would be surprised the change in general that I've observed in the marketplace, in the employment market, in that 10 years. The quality of employees that were applying for jobs changed dramatically. And I'm talking not only from the perspective of qualifications, but for just the general character. The ability to just the general qualities like hard working, honest, trustworthy, reliability.
So just the overall quality.
Just the overall quality,
Why do you think that is? I know we're this isn't where we're going, but why do you think that is?
Good question. That question I asked myself many times. I don't know what it is. I think maybe just a new generation that the generation changed. And the generation before was the generation that was not a smartphone type of generation. There was people that were raised without it, more outdoor people, more hands-on people.
Right.
But people that, the generation that followed are the generation that are a lot like my one of my sons, he said, Dad, I'm not going to be like a matrix guy. And I was like, what is matrix? Matrix is like 9 to 5. And my son-in-law, I remember when he was 15 or 14, offered him like $12 an hour. And he said, it's a wasting time. And it was such an embarrassing thing for me. Such an embarrassing thing. I'm like, son, you're 15-year-old. Are you kidding me?
Crazy.
Are you kidding me? So he said, he's not. I said, how are you going to achieve it? I said, I'm just going to work off my computer, from my home.
Mm-hmm. We were actually talking about him right before you came in here. Yeah. We're just kind of like, I guess I'm kind of just giving him some tips on how to actually make that money online. And so are you saying like the quality of employees changed as in like the smartphone came in and there's easier ways to make money, or are you talking the overall work ethic? I'm talking
the overall work ethic in the industry that we were hiring people for. Mm-hmm. For the industry that was construction, industrial, environmental.
So it's like actual hard work.
The actual hard workers, people that were willing to put in the effort, physical effort.
Labor, yeah.
Physical labor, they just diminished. Mm-hmm. And that was something that I was observing before the real switch took place. Mm-hmm. So I guess I stepped out at the right time.
Yeah. So you were hiring people basically for construction and stuff like that. Do you have any experience yourself in that kind of construction industry, or I guess that hard like labor in your younger years?
In my younger years, I was working on the roof for about almost 2 years.
You were a roofer?
Shingles. I was a roofer.
I had no idea.
I was a roofer, 110 degrees. When I came to the United States, I was learning Spanish before
How long ago did you come just to put us in a reference?
1996, March 6th.
Wow. So you came from Ukraine.
Came to Ukraine here. My first work is work on the roof.
No English?
No English, Spanish. Spanish was the common language for that. So
I learned Spanish before English. Wow.
I started looking like a Hispanic guy after being outdoor in 110 degrees and picking up some words. But then I remember at that time even people that I was around, we had this mentality: you got to do what you got to do. Mm-hmm. So my schedule was I would start on the roof around 5:30, 6 o'clock in the summertime, and at 3 o'clock I would work second shift at Carol Wright Gifts, which was like a catalog company. So I was an order picker, pulling orders for people. So I was working double jobs. Mm-hmm. 5:30 a.m. to midnight around.
Did you have any kids at this time?
I had I was about to have a kid. Then I had a kid, and I continued like that for...
just having kids.
For another year.
Two jobs. Wow, that's crazy. How much were you making as a roofer in 1996?
This is 96. So this
96, $7 an hour cash.
What?
For the roofing, and I was making $630 on the payroll of Carol Wright Gifts.
Wow.
So it was...
Benefits must have been crazy.
You know what was the craziest part? That there was 1 minute call to Ukraine was 95 cents. Telephone call. So my wife and everybody were in Ukraine. So if they
You came here without your wife first and started working?
No. My wife's relatives. I'm sorry, I misspoke. My wife's relatives, our relatives, everyone, the family was back home. So... And my wife was doing a 30 minutes call. I was sitting there and counting how many roof hours. I was equating it for roof hours.
That must have been a painful phone call, huh?
7 minutes. Wow. 7 minutes that's it. That's an hour on a roof. I just I don't think if anyone's been on a roof, I have, but I haven't worked years on it. Dude, that's hell.
And you came straight here. You came straight to Nebraska?
Straight to Nebraska.
Why? Why Nebraska?
The grandma immigrated in 1991, and we just got married, so we were curious. We were like, okay, we're starting our life, so we may as well come and try it. And if it doesn't work, we'll come back.
Wow.
No hard feelings.
And that was it? That was the decision?
One thing that I came, it was hard. It was rough. But I wanted to just put in a good fight. I didn't want to just turn around and go back. I wanted to just...
You wanted to say that you tried your best, basically.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So early days. So get into, I think...
You did 2 years as a roofer. After that,
right.
Is that when you went to Work USA?
I started to Work USA in 1999. So I would say 2 years in the roofer, and then there was a period of time that I continued working at Carol Wright Gifts, but I wasn't doing roofing. That third year.
Wow. So you put in 12 years at Work USA, basically?
No, at Work USA, I put in, because my first year having trucking company, I was also doing 2 jobs, Work USA and Advantage Trucking.
Oh my goodness.
What pushed you to start the trucking company?
No. Let's not get there. Let's not get there.
You want to go back a little bit?
I want to go back a little bit because I know this story a little bit, and I think it's very interesting of how you even got a job at Work USA. I think it kind of speaks to who you are. How much English did you know before starting at Work USA?
My English was, I would say, 30%.
Wow.
Back at Work USA, we had like this grade, these 0 to 4 grades to grade somebody's English. 4 being fluent, 3 good communication, accent, 2 just you can talk about basic things, you can be understood, and 1 is very some words. Yes.
Where were you?
So I would say I was like 2+.
and you were already working, grading the people that some were already at 4s.
Well, I was hired to do the front office basically.
Okay.
And there were some Slavic people that were looking for work, so my role was to just do some translation for them and just do some basic paperwork. It was a good position. At that time, though, we already made a decision to move to Seattle, Washington. So I came like at a very temporary basis until we complete that move, basically. So for a couple of months.
Okay, now you have to get into that. Why didn't you go?
That was the original idea, and then several things happened. It was about October of 1999.
Okay.
On August 15 of 1999, House of Prayer Church started. Like few families,
right.
5-6 families, and when we every new family that was coming was very close. We were as a family very close friends, and it was deep in our heart. It was not easy for us to kind of continue with that decision to move out, to a different state, because we were thinking of people that just arrived. We remember our first days, but I guess that we were even approved already for housing in Seattle.
Oh wow. So you had like
In
the
King
main
County.
stuff already.
You already have
figured
one
out.
foot out the door.
So we
really.
were just 1 foot out the door. So what happened after that in November, I think it was the man who was working as employment director, he somehow he resigned. He left his position. And my boss, he approached me, he said, well, we don't have anyone, and you've been already here 1 month, so you kind of know what's going on, and we need you to kind of step into that job. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Well, just temporary, help us out until we hire somebody. Well, and that kind of gave me peace. That was kind of type of thing that I could agree for. I said, okay, well, it's temporary, just to kind of give you a hand. That's okay. And at that time, there was this company that we just started doing business with called Centurion. They were making antennas for a cell phone.
Oh, that's
Cell
back
phones.
in the day. Back in the day. Wow.
Antennas. Yeah, there's generation 1. Just
Like that go on the
just go on the phone and you just pull out, and
can't say I've ever had a phone like that.
I never had a
those
phone
kind
like
of
that, no.
phones. And we just started doing business with them, and so I moved from the front office to like the actual room, the actual office. And I was afraid to death when customers called. People I could deal with, but customers, important people, I was like, man. So every time the customer would call, I would just ask the front office person to take a message. Call them back. And instead of calling, I was actually, typing an email and having somebody else to check on the email to make sure that I don't say nothing stupid, that it'll be politically correct too. But anyway, so I was doing that, and in 1 month, we almost doubled the business.
Oh, wow.
So now think about it. My boss, he had no idea that I'm doing nothing, literally, that I'm kind of running away from my obligations almost.
But once you got hired, the business doubled.
That first month.
Technically.
So he came to me at the end of the month and said, Oleg, do you realize that, we're so high on numbers? We hired 90 people for that Centurion or something.
What?
We were hiring good quality people because you know what? I was really putting my heart into that, was trying to do for him just as I would do for myself. And but only, you know, as far as the attitude, the effort, but as far as the knowledge, as far as the actual communication with clients, as far as seeking the contracts, nothing. Zero.
So in terms of acquisition, nothing but
Nothing.
like just getting the best people that you could get.
So he came, he said, well, I'll give you $24,000 salary. You got to remember it was 1999. That was good.
What were you making before? Like before this?
Well, $7 and $9 was like jump from $9 to 24,000 annual.
Wow.
And then, and I'm like, man, you know, that's great.
That's good money.
But how am I going to kind of justify that? The first month.
How old are you? Sorry, I keep interrupting.
I was about 25 at that time.
Okay.
And I already had 2 children. But, you know, temporary is temporary. So anyway, another month's passing by, and the business increases. I don't remember the number, but like significantly. So he comes to me at the end of the second month. He said, man, you know, we dreamt to be here, so I'll give you $30,000.
Wow. In a month.
In a month, like second month. Then the third month comes, and then it happens again. So he comes to me, gives me $40,000 after the third month.
So you can just raise it every month.
$40,000 in 1999. That's like probably, you know, $130,000 today.
That's
Wow.
insane.
And
actually,
and you know what? Not about the money, obviously, but I sensed in my spirit that this is not normal.
Mm-hmm.
This is not because of my effort. This is not because of my prayer. This is not. This is just supernatural, really.
Well, yeah. I mean,
And what happened was that we talked home and we prayed about it, and we canceled our plans on moving out. And then about 15 years passed by, and as a Christian man, you know, I believe in God's sovereign right on my life. And I was at a random place, random family that never knew me, and we were praying. And as we started prayer, there was a prophecy through that man. He said, God started speaking to him, and he said, do you remember the time when you were trying to move out of the place where you're at? And do you remember how things happened, that you were always coming back and questioning it? Well, that was me, because I've appointed you to be where you're at. And those type of things and all these puzzles, they came together, which I sensed in my spirit that it was just a confirmation.
Mm-hmm.
That is not by no means coincidence.
Wow.
And it was very comforting. It was very encouraging, just to get the reminder that God kind of orchestrates our life if we trust Him, if we seek Him, if we are intentional about it. You know, He's very involved.
Mm-hmm.
So praise God for that.
So I wanted to get that part of the story. Unless you have something.
Let's pause real quick. Greg, do you need to do anything with this camera?
No, that one's. It just.
Is it good now?
No, it just turns off randomly. It's made for photos, not video. So I mean, it's got a 20-minute lifespan on it, and then you got to restart it.
If we have that bad,
Yeah, that one's. I got some.
We're gonna be
extra ones
golden.
right
We're gonna be
Okay.
golden either way.
All right, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So we were talking about that. I wanted to get that first part because I feel like that month, that progression, especially when it's like one of those things that just was like crazy. Like it was not something that you can't just ask to, I mean, you can be competent, but it's one thing to just get promoted month by month, getting these significant like 30% raises. You know what I mean? That's crazy numbers. So I just wanted to hear that part. Unless there's something else in Work USA, but I kind of want to get into the advantage trucking aspect. My question would be, why do you think that you would why trucking first of all, and then why start a business? Because you didn't.
Yeah, why not just find a different job?
Why not get another job, or you know what I mean?
Well, a couple things. First and probably most important was that, as I mentioned, you sense that your season at this season's coming to an end, and there were multiple things that were pointing to that. And one of the things that was very, very tempting to me, and it was a temptation. I would lie if I said it would not. It was not. Most of the clients, a lot of the clients, they didn't. We were that first face. Me and my partner were the first face that was interacting with them. You know, it was kind of between the owner of the company, of the agency, and the customers, and we built that business basically. We've earned every penny of that business. We've shook hands with people. We were going to events with those people who are decision makers. Yeah. And there was this towards the end of my venue with Work USA, they were actively seeking, almost forcing us to cut ties with the agency and open our own. And my partner, he was pushing for that as well, pretty hard. And there was, obviously, we had a non-compete agreement, so we couldn't do it right there in where we were. But there was ways around it. Right. You could move it to different county and open the office in different, same thing in different county. And it came to the point where it became a little bit of the battle, you know, because it could have been a lot of easy money on one hand, but I thinking about it, I really despise that. I despise me in that picture. So I was looking, I said, I would never be able to justify that. I would never be able to be true to myself looking in the mirror if I do that. We're talking, you know, big amounts of money.
And what was the how do you remember roughly how many people were employed through the agency at this point?
Well, we had
roughly, just a guess.
We had roughly probably around 150, 170 people
on full payroll, on
full payroll. Yeah.
Which I can you go in just from what I know, that's when they pay the agency, it's not just that you guys get some sort of commission. You guys get paid exactly what they get paid the whole time, right?
No, there was
something like
different jobs. They had a different billing structure, obviously, but it's a you know, for example, if the pay rate of the employee is $10 an hour, you know, the agency gets paid, you know, 50% over that, or 55 or 60% over that. Not that the agency covers, you know, the hiring and firing expenses, payroll expenses, and workman's comp. So it's pretty significant, you know, when you're talking, you know, top line revenue. You know, we were probably between $5 and $10 million, with obviously not nearly as much of the expenses as we incur being a trucking company, especially with the cost of fuel right now.
Mm-hmm. So at this point, you were thinking about starting basically the same kind of company that you were working in, right?
Well, you weren't thinking of starting the same thing. You didn't want to.
Right.
So I wasn't thinking. It was just a one word, yes, and pretty much you have the established business.
Because you already have the clientele.
With all this clientele. And I made a decision not to do it, but do something. I started actively praying to seek guidance from the Lord, to see where should I do? Obviously, you should work. What should that be? And then right at the same time, I had a friend, Oleg Stepanyuk. He was a truck driver. He had his own truck. He was owner operator, and he wanted to try to open his own company. I said, I can help you open the company, no problem. I can write articles, organizations. I can do that. And he said, why shouldn't we go? Why don't we both go into this? I'll get you the truck. You'll get the driver. It's very easy. You'll be finding loads. And I remember it wasn't very difficult to find loads for 1 or 2 trucks. And since, like I said, I was in that season, it was just a matter of trial almost. Okay, let's try it. Let's see what happens, kind of thing. So I got the truck, and it was very interesting because I'll tell you, it was another kind of confusing event, and you'll be surprised. You probably don't know what I'm about to say, but there was this family back in the day. Sinchuk, and they took a small boy. They didn't adopt him, but they were his parents. His father passed away, and his mother was mentally incapable to take care of him. So this boy they were like foster parents for him. So he was placed in their care. And I parked my truck in their pretty much in their front yard. And what happened one day, there was a gas explosion in a very tragic event. So the boy died. He was at the home. The whole home got burned down, and my truck got burned down to the ground.
Oh, wow.
So there was like another thing that I was asking the Lord. I was like, okay,
that's a sign.
Yeah, that's a clear sign.
Should I take it as a sign that that's something that I shouldn't be doing? But see, the problem is that at that time, Advantage Trucking was already functional. And it wasn't just about me wanting or not wanting to do it. My partner was already, his truck was already registered as Advantage. Mm-hmm. And that was the only means of income for him. Mm-hmm. He was actually driving it.
So and that's how he was two trucks at this time.
There was just
one.
2 trucks.
Now one.
Well, we were going from 2 back to 1.
And this is year 1 of your business?
That was year 1. That was right 2012.
Goodness, that must have been brutal. And you bought this truck and it burned down.
It burned down completely. And
okay,
you know,
just to reference, I'm assuming the truck didn't have a gas explosion. There was a gas explosion that burned the house down, and the truck was there.
The truck was at the front yard, so the truck.
Right. So it wasn't your guys' fault. That's what I'm trying to get.
But we didn't get a penny coverage for it.
Oh, wow.
We didn't have the insurance on it. It was just something that was getting ready to get registered.
Oh, so it's like new. Like so this hasn't been driving yet.
Right, it hasn't been put on the road yet.
That's
it was just getting ready to get on the road.
This is just the investment part right here.
That investment was burned to the ground.
Oh my goodness!
So I was facing the decision. Okay, what shall I do? And then again, where I was coming from, that it's at that point it's not about me, it's also about someone else that needs to feed the family. So we kept the ship rolling. And Oleg, my partner, he helped me big time with kind of trying to recuperate the damages. So we took the parts that could have been, somehow salvageable. We took those burned remains to the scrap yard, and we little time passed by, and we got another truck number 12. So his truck was number 11. My truck was number 12. And then that's how the ship...
How long was it before you got that third truck? Well, you know what I mean.
The third one? Probably maybe another month or 2.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I guess that'd be the numbers there.
So
okay.
Just for like a couple months you guys were looking, and at this time you guys just had the one truck running, right? So
do you remember the numbers there by chance? Just what it was like, what were you making like year... Because... not year 1, but like how long until you got your truck that didn't burn down? Sorry, that didn't burn down. What is that? 6 months? Is that 4 months?
It was shortly after. It was probably maybe another month. Maybe.
No, but I'm saying like from the start of Advantage Trucking.
This truck that we purchased, I think we purchased before we even registered Advantage Trucking.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so it was like just running
the one that got burned down, and then.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
That Advantage Trucking was established. So he was running his own truck, and we were getting this one ready.
Okay.
So when you got that third truck, you got a driver in it, or did you drive it yourself?
No, I didn't drive it myself. I had a driver for it right away.
Who was the driver? Do you remember? Just your first driver that you ever hired?
The first 2 drivers that we had, one was Brad Harris, and the second was Clark Bowman.
Oh, just two
Joes.
Guys. Just two guys.
Two guys that we've put on the road.
Okay.
Our first drivers.
Yeah. So what kind of like challenges did you guys face that first year? Besides, your first
investment
except for the
burning explosion.
Yeah, that one was rough.
My boss didn't mind. Like I said, the first year, pretty much
you were working still at this time,
entire
right?
year of 2013.
Yeah.
I was working at Work USA and Advantage Trucking. So I trained my brother Andre to be a dispatcher right at Work USA office. My boss didn't didn't mind that because, like I said, at that point, the results of our performance, so to speak, and the numbers were speaking for themselves. So he didn't have much objections, especially that I talked to him and I explained him that I will stay at the company, I will train somebody at my place, and I will leave the company at the peak, and I won't leave him hanging. I will make sure that I'll pass that baton at full speed.
Mm-hmm. I think that says a lot. I think that's like a huge thing. Like, so there's like this, I guess, what's your view, which I'm starting to pick up on it a little bit, but like there's definitely like this, there's a view in terms of entrepreneurship to be just like a killer. Like to be just like cutthroat and like cold-blooded. Like, because you could have just got up, packed your bags, walked away, started the same thing. You said you didn't want to do that, but you could have, just as easily walked away. Because it's not like you get something for keeping the business going, you know what I mean?
My boss picked me up and I was, remember, right after my roofing venue,
right,
and I was nobody. So pretty much as far as the professional growth, all the professional growth incurred while I was at the staffing agency. So I traveled, I attended, national staffing company meetings, other important events, and I've grown to become professional in what I was doing. So I remember that pretty much I owed that to him. So to do it for someone who, allowed me that growth to backstab him, that would never, no money could push me to do that.
Mm-hmm. High morals. Very high morals.
So what's your, and because he talked about, so we talked about year one, right? What's next? You get the truck.
Did you guys only have those 2 trucks for the first year, or how fast did you start adding trucks?
I would say probably for maybe 3-4 months, and then, what happens, the way that we were structured, whenever we had a driver that wanted to drive for us, we were looking for the truck, not vice versa. So we were pushed by drivers' availability. A lot of companies, they struggled at that time with quality drivers, but we were getting drivers, we were getting them trucks. We would say, well, hold on for a couple, 3 weeks, we'll find you the truck. And then at that point we started looking, hey, where can we get the truck? Who can sell the truck? Where are we getting the truck? As far as industry, we had to learn all the tricks, all the small things, pretty much by trial and error type of method.
Gotcha.
We didn't have any mentors, any consultants, anybody who would kind of lead us by hand. So we were just.
So we talk a lot about goals, just on the podcast and just amongst ourselves. What, like, because here's the thing, you just built this company. Let's call it up to $10 million. I don't know what the number is, but 10 million sounds like a good number to build up to in 15 years. I'm assuming there has to be something inside you that's like, man, I want more. Or not that I want more, but I can. Like, the work that I produce can really, like, it's productive, right? Like, I can create this business, like, right? Because you started it, right? Was there ever, like, hey, this is my vision, right? This is a goal. Like, when did that happen, right? In terms of Advantage Trucking, was there like, hey, let's get to 10 trucks, let's get to 15, like, or let's, you know what I mean? Like, was there ever talks between you and the owner, or just you and yourself, of like, hey, here's my goal, like, here's what I want to go for.
Yeah, what was your long-term vision for Advantage?
And when did it come? Because when we talk most entrepreneurs, that vision doesn't start from day one, like for the most part, from what we've heard.
Good question, Ed. The vision did change many times. The original vision was something to feed the family. If I have to step away from the staffing company, I gotta have something. I'll just like coming to United States. I'll try it. If it works, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But then you put in the work, and then opportunity presents itself. So then the first change was, I wanted at that time in Slavic community, people that were my friends, people that I knew, they were working. A lot of them were working. I don't want to say low-paying jobs, but there was very little entrepreneurial. In the community, mostly industrial, very talented people that were smart, people that were my friends. So I guess the first very important goal for me was to try to bring on some of the people that I associate with. I thought it would be a cool environment if I have, some of these folks by my hand. Right. Second goal, big goal, was for truckers, people that were truckers at the church. They were gone most of the Sundays, and I've heard them complaining, man, we are missing all the important events. We are missing, this is no life, we are on the road like 2 weeks. And I wanted to create a company that this position, this job will be pleasant and fulfilling for a driver. So I guess the biggest difference of Advantage Trucking compared to other companies are like, there are people who like over the road, for example. Mm-hmm. So we give them the opportunity to do the round, say, which usually is about 5 days or so. And then they can take as much time at home as they want. So
or as little.
Or as little. So if they go for a 5-day round and they are say somebody's a family man who has children, who wants to spend time with children, okay, well, take 4 days off. Okay, then go back to another round. And then for our people that have a high priority for church services, to be there, they want to be part of the community, part of the church. It was almost standard for us to bring them back home by Friday night, so they are able to be at church on Sunday.
Right.
Not to lose that connection, not to become just a money-making machine.
Right.
So that, I think, that was one of the biggest couple biggest goals that we had in our early years that still that kind of served that state.
Right.
So just to pivot just a little bit, like you're saying, okay, so your first year Advantage, so it was just all fell into place. Did you hit any challenges? Tell me a little bit of kind of like some milestones that you guys achieved, or was there ever a point where you were kind of like...
It's not even your first year, just right in the beginning.
Yeah, was there ever a time where you were like, man, I don't know if this is going to work out, or was it always just like,
no,
perfect?
No. Oh my goodness.
I'm expecting
I'm like,
it
these
to
are
be
some
perfect.
some good morals. I'm like, man, like there's just nothing went wrong.
Oh, our biggest mistake was that we've started like exponential growth in 2014, because we had good clients, people started to know about us, so we were hiring people, and we were getting a lot of accidents. Like I'm talking, our first accident was the trailer caught on fire, and it burned down. It was the load.
Jeez.
Somebody didn't know how to use engine brake, and they just do a paddle, and they just burned the trailer.
Oh man. When did this happen? How many years into the company?
It happened, I want to say, in 2013. Winter.
A year after you guys started?
A year after we started. Then next month after that, or 2 months after that, somebody rolled over the truck. It was total loss for tractor, trailer, and the load. Then a month after that, there was the man who went the wrong road in Denver, Colorado, who went kind of against the one way, and stopped on the stop. He stopped. He noticed that he stopped, but then the incoming car freaked out, jerked the steering wheel, and rolled over. So we were liable for that. We were brought to court for that.
Oh, geez.
So we had to go through the lawsuit. And then a month after that, or 2 months after that, there was another man who tried to do a kind of turn around on the highway.
Oh, man.
Kind of block the highway, and somebody hit our rear in driving 75 miles an hour, was airlifted to the hospital.
Oh, my
And
goodness.
that was the point where we were like, oh, man, this is not worth it. What are we doing wrong? So at the end of that year, no insurance wanted to take us. So there was like a lot of hardcore challenges. And we didn't know that in the beginning, we didn't know that DOT has this method how they evaluate your safety performance by having a different gradation system. The scores in hours of service for the safe driving, for vehicle maintenance, for driver fitness, and so on. So we were like 90 plus in each category.
And 100 is the highest.
And 100 as a total score, which means that every weight station was supposed to stop us.
100 is a high score is bad here. It's like golf. The higher the score, the worse.
So did that cause you any trouble getting loads? Did all the other companies saw this was public data?
It was public data. People didn't want to give us the loads. We were losing brokers, and we were at that point, it was like a cold shower. We were like, okay, well, let's just stay with good drivers. Let's just change, bring about some changes, and that's when we started to create a very comprehensive orientation package. We're trying to invest into drivers, actually, not just to take their driver license, but actually invest in them, hold them responsible, check their logbook. The other big challenge for me personally, probably I would say the biggest, that was like almost like a deal breaker for me to continue doing trucking or stop doing it altogether, was when there was a time when people had a logbook. A lot of people were not putting truthful information in a paper logbook, and
why would someone put untruthful information in a logbook? Just
very, very simple. People, the quick around, if you drive double shift, then you'll make that amount of money in 3 days instead of 5. And that's simply greed. That's simply, just they thought they can do it physically, but indirectly, you know what's going on, and you're part of it indirectly.
Right.
It was pretty heavy on my conscience, and I just prayed a lot about it. I couldn't control it because obviously you don't see what people do on the paper when they go off.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when they come back, And then what are you going to do with it? You're just part of the whole process. Mm-hmm. And probably I was one of the few who welcomed electronic logbooks. I was so happy about them and just celebrated electronic logbooks, really, because then it is what it is. You can't you just put the factual information, truthful information, and that's what we want to be.
What year was this? Just like
it was.
Where are we at in terms of the story of Advantage? Because I do want to capture that.
So your accidents happened. What was that? Year 3, year 4?
2014.
So this is year 2. Year 2.
We had Wilshire. We were with Wilshire. Very good, great insurance company, but man, we caused them some losses.
They paid
some losses. So year 2, you guys had accidents after accidents,
and they didn't they never took Advantage Trucking back, right?
They never wanted us back.
I wonder why.
Even though we had numerous great years,
right?
And we tried multiple times, but they never wanted us back.
Why did you try to go back to them?
They're a great company.
Yeah,
they are a plus insurance company. Well, we are insured with great company right now. It's not very comparable. Great company. We are not looking, but I'm saying, before we got with Nationwide, we were looking. Mm-hmm. And he said, okay, well, this happened like 4 years ago. Now look at our last 3 years. Look at our last 4 years.
Just so they would, if they would at least consider, yeah.
And they would say, no, we would not consider it. That's how bad it was in 2014. Wow. And actually, this is the one and only time that we got a letter of exclusion. Like 2 months before the renewal, they send us letter of exclusion. They said, we will not renew your policy. Don't even send the application.
Oh man.
So okay, year 2.
Edward's lucky that he wasn't there at that time, but it cost some sleepless nights, honestly.
Yeah,
I've had some of those still.
So did any of this kind of happen? Like, okay, where you have all these accidents, did any of this have to get covered out of Advantage's pocket, or was a lot of it getting covered by insurance?
No, Wilshire is a great company. We had very little deductible. I don't remember. I think it's $2,500. So we were only like paying $2,500 per accident, and these guys were stuck with like one accident was $900,000, the other one like $350,000.
Oh my goodness.
$500,000 left and right.
Hey, after a couple of these, were you just like fearful of like even sending them? Hey guys, we got another accident.
I don't want to call you guys, but so how did this affect the company? If you're comfortable sharing in terms of like numbers, because if your safety score went up, I'm assuming it was a little harder to get loads. Did it affect the number side of Advantage?
Oh, and also mention if you remember what was the top line on year 1?
Yeah, what was your gross at that time?
I want to say that that in 2014 we ran about maybe 10 trucks or so, and I think we hit maybe $1.5 million to 2 million
top line.
Top line.
Okay, and then I would just, what do you think? Just what was the net margin roughly? Just the
company was profitable still, and
with all the accidents,
insurance, right on, man.
The margin was very decent, and the main reason for that was that we started working with Cargill here in Lincoln. They were giving us a lot of loads, good paying loads, and our dispatchers were doing very diligent job for them in terms of reporting, in terms of picking up the hot loads for them, just serving them really well. Right. And we were, I think on those years we scored really high on their list as far as, I think probably even made number one carrier
for that lane Cargill or for that region.
For this region in one of those years. I don't remember for sure. But that was they saved us in 2014 and the next several years. Yeah. Because other people were not giving us loads, but we could get as many as we wanted
through them
locally through Cargill and call it a day.
Mm-hmm. So we're hearing a lot about like how Advantage is growing and what Advantage has been going through. But when you started this company, how many kids did you have at this time, by the way?
In 2012, we had 5 children.
So how was your personal life doing when you just started a company and you're stressing about all these accidents? So what did it look like for Oleg on a day-to-day basis? What were you working like?
Now, what was the day-to-day back then?
Yeah. That's
a look that says it all.
That is painful question. I would say it's not what I expected when I started the company. The people dream when they get into a new venue, when they open the company, they always dream that they will establish it. They will just, hire people to run it for them, and they will just chill, and they will just come and maybe check on the P&L and balance sheet or whatever, and just leave.
Right.
I'm still looking for those who were able to do it like that. The truth is that it's like your baby. You're involved, and you a lot of that you take very personally. It takes toll on you. Yes, I was praying in that year 2014. I was praying a lot because I didn't want this accident to happen. And believe it or not, at the end of 2014, it stopped to the point that next couple years we had like clean years completely. After like having accidents every month, we had like 3 clean years in a row, great years. And our score went great, and everything went great.
And all was good at Advantage Trucking. What was your schedule like? When did you get into work? When were you leaving work? Was there a schedule? Was it 24/7?
Well, we were
it changed
on
much?
call. Yeah, you're always on duty.
Pretty much always on call. Yeah,
always on duty. But actively in the office, I would say yes, probably 8:30 to 5. You were at the office, and then we were just answering calls.
Right.
Whenever they were coming in.
Yeah.
Sometimes always.
Sometimes always.
Yeah. So now you're saying you're what, almost 10 years into the business. Has your schedule changed at all?
Well,
we're just hopping ahead here. We're gonna come back.
It's a good question because in my life it's kind of twinkled the business and other things that I'm responsible for or I'm doing for the community, for the church, for the family. That's all like I'm not able to keep it like, okay, I'm going to be working business from 9 to 1, from 1 to 3 I'm going to be doing this. It's the serving in my life, like serving people, it merged with the business activity. And let me just bring you an example. When we have our drivers, a lot of times we would call them brothers. We have different people working for us. We have Muslim people, we have Buddhist people, we have Christian people. But when they have a need, when they are open for the gospel, we would we're not going to push it on them. But if they come with the need, we are not looking at them as just an employee, but we are looking at them as someone that we would minister if there is a moment to minister, if they are open to be ministered to. So that's a big thing. A lot of time we would pray at the office for their needs together with them. And that was, by the way, that was another dream of mine that one day I would have the opportunity to do that. I really love it.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I because we are more of like a business centric podcast, but I'm starting to hear a lot that money, in terms of wealth creation, whatever it is, I haven't heard you mention not one time that was a priority. I mean, it obviously was not
not a priority, a goal.
Right, but I'm saying like it wasn't like the driving factor. Like, was that? Am I picking up that wrong, or was it because like you're talking a lot about serving people, like being in a position where you can create even like from year one, and I didn't hear like, hey, I'm trying to get this bag, I'm trying to retire early type of thing. It's like haven't heard
trying
that.
To get this money.
Trying to get this money. Yeah. Is that am I?
Yeah, money. I never set the financial goals for myself in terms of I want to make $500,000 this year. No, I did want to be a kind of guy that would put it on the top of the list of my priorities, because money has the power to, when they get that high on your list, they would destroy you. It's not a good mentality. I was coming from the mentality that we are doing this much hard work. I want to make sure that my drivers are compensated or they are better off with advantage than with any of my competitors, because they are like a family. Yeah. People that are working here, I want to make sure that after they put in such a hard work, that they would make more than at any other place that they could have potentially worked doing this. Mm. That was kind of my mentality as far as people that I worked with. As far as the goals, there is this, maybe the season in life also where your basic needs are satisfied, and then you're at that intersection, whether you want to shoot for like an extra luxury, and make it your goal, like have a yacht, for example, or personal plane or whatever. Right. That's okay. I gotta have it. Or it's not that important anymore. It's not really, honestly. So the dreams that I had on a personal level, and I can share it easily, the dreams that I had on a personal level they also changed.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Like, for example, 1 year I was dreaming of having like a almost like, you guys have Connect classes, but having like a business class where we would bring like 16-year-olds and we would show them things. We would teach them. We will kind of help them to kind of give them the lunch in life.
Fantastic idea. I think you should still pursue that.
Yeah, and that's in my heart, because we can teach them some of the morals, the quality of a man, but to teach them some practical skills that would help them to be professionals. So that was big one. Secondly, like right now, for example, what is my big dream is to be able to go back to Ukraine one day, or even organize the movement. And actually, I'm bringing some companies on board for that we could maybe go to the city and start rebuilding homes for people that lost their homes, for widows, for orphans, just to kind of impact somebody's life like that as a company, on the personal level, and so on, and just involve other people. And of course, that original dream that everybody have, I do still have it, that one day I'd be able to maybe work part-time instead of in full-time, and just focus more on ministering to people. Really, that's where my heart is.
Like, are you talking in a sense where where the company still exists and you still have, your royalties from it and somebody else is running it? And if that's kind of the goal, are you doing anything now, being a decade in, to create that future for yourself? Is there a movement toward that future already?
Right. That movement exists. It is there. And I see some of the key people of the company growing. And, being able to delegate some of the tasks, honestly, that I didn't have that luxury to delegate before, honestly speaking. A lot of them. And yes, I see that that is the direction that we are taking.
Mm-hmm. So kind of hopping back a little bit, we're talking a little bit about the future of your company. What would you say for somebody that's starting out, like in the industry, for example, the trucking industry, if you can give somebody some practical advice, somebody maybe that's watching, that's listening to this, what would you tell them? What would you tell them to prepare for?
Good question. I would say, number one, if you have to like what you're doing. Mm-hmm. If you see yourself that, okay, I like driving, for example. Mm-hmm. I like to deal with trucks. I like everything that there is about them, repair them, move freight or whatever. This is me. I like that line of work. You have to find it in your heart. That would be big. That would solve 60% of future issues.
Love what you do, huh?
Love what you do. Number two, be detailed and be precise. Don't disguise, don't neglect small things. Sometimes people are after big things, after big goal, but big ladder has like small steps. Mm-hmm. So I would say, one of our administrative people.
I take it that's Edward here.
That's Edward right here. He asked me the other day, how many steps does it take from the moment where you book the load and the moment that the load is closed?
Oh, from a round trip. It's basically a round trip. That's
and you know what? I couldn't have guessed what the number is. I think I gave him what did I tell you? Ed?
Said like, I think 11, 12.
11, 12. I think I said more than that.
Maybe you said 15-ish.
15-ish, and it was how many?
32.
32 steps per load?
32 steps.
It's not small either. There's like some that take a significant
amount
of
there
work.
is something that needs to be done. So from the moment that we are looking for the load, for the moment that everything is done and we are expecting the payment for it, 32 steps that somebody needs to take. That's breaking down the tasks into smaller tasks. And now every one of these smaller tasks is important. It needs to be done well and precisely.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, if somebody who has the character of just omitting things, missing things, would not be a good entrepreneur, because everything's matter. And trucking, for example, is very unforgiving.
Are you saying entrepreneur?
Like entrepreneur, yeah. Entrepreneur, if you want to open your own business and build that business, you have to pay attention to small things.
Okay.
You have to be disciplined. You have to discipline yourself,
right,
and create that character of,
Would it be excellence? Like
excellence,
trying to be the
excellence,
best.
Trying to be the best
that
in
you can do.
everything, small thing, because that's where your success is.
Okay.
You don't see the fruit right away. That was number 2 advice. Number 3 advice: treat others the way that you want to be treated.
Okay.
I think one of the biggest
the golden rule right there.
One of our big broker, I remember the compliment that we received. It really means a lot to me. It was a very embarrassing situation, actually, that one of our drivers, he was delivering to Walmart. And Walmart DC, they charge fees for rescheduling appointments. Very important to deliver on time for Walmart. Or if you can, to at least notify the broker. What happened to us, the driver was there, and he fell asleep. And he overslept his appointment.
A mile,
1 mile.
Not even, maybe half a mile.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Goodness, how embarrassing it was. But then my dispatch office, they, instead of saying, okay, he had a blowout tire, people do it all the time. People would
a white lie, basically.
White lie. And then they said, this is what happened. That's what, and I really appreciate they did it. And the broker, believe it or not, appreciated the honesty. So the honesty that, okay, this is what happened. It's embarrassing, we are sorry, but this is truth. Mm-hmm. The truth wins. So being truthful, it wins.
Yeah.
In everything that you do, be truthful.
Yeah. So those are your tips for anybody coming into the industry. I like that, and that's the one thing that we've seen kind of on our previous podcasts. It's like you watch a lot of these things online where like these bigger businesses, they preach a lot of like, hey, be cutthroat, be ruthless, take it out, and a lot of the things that I see with like small businesses with like morals, that are Christian believing people, their morals and their reasons for starting the company are very different. They're like, hey, we want to provide a better place for people to work. We want to treat people fairly. We want to create a family,
Ilya, I will add this statement. You shouldn't be chasing success. Success will chase you if you follow these 3 steps.
There you go.
I like that.
Quote that.
I like that.
So one thing I wanted to mention is just kind of from the amount of time I've known you, I've seen you help people start the same kind of company that you have, trucking companies. Why? And why do you not worry that they're going to compete with you directly or basically take money out of your company's pocket,
or
compete with you directly?
Or beat you.
Or beat you.
If they beat me, then I did something right. I trained them well.
A little too well.
But the truth is, the personal goal of investing in people and see them successful supersede the worries of being thrown on the side of the road by people who might be more successful. For me, to see a young man that is successful brings me so much joy that's probably greater than he's doing better than me.
Wow. Well, maybe your future should be in consulting in that case, huh?
I think that's where it's probably going to go. I mean, goodness. It's like talking to a guru.
I also wanted to mention, you say you have a business partner, right?
Yeah, I have a business partner.
Just kind of coming from being in a partnership myself, what do you see like as a strength that you and so when you first started the company, it was you, Oleg and Oleg, right?
Right.
What strengths did you guys both have, and did that help the company grow in different ways? Like without that person, you would have grown a lot slower, like, you know what I mean? What are your guys' personality differences?
Well,
I know it's a loaded question.
Yeah, it's a loaded question. The skill itself, Oleg number 2, my partner, he is not as much of a people person, but he is very knowledgeable as far as the equipment maintenance, functionality. So that he pretty much undertook that whole area of operations, just taking care of trucks, maintenance, repair, acquisition of the assets. That was his strong side, and he did really well, in my opinion. Because me coming into the trucking, I knew very little about trucks. Maybe tires and brakes. But he's been a seasonal professional.
Right.
At that time, he's been driving for 7 years, and he. But my role was office work, administrative, logistics, just pretty much safety and compliance. Everything that there is to make sure that company is operable.
Right.
That they have contracts. The company has contracts. The company satisfy all the legal requirements with the state. The company is compliant with all the requirements of DOT. The company performs well in its relationship with the brokers and customers, hiring and firing of the employees. So I took all that under my wing.
Okay, so let's get back into we've talked about business in terms of Advantage Trucking. We've talked about kind of year 1 to 4. Let's push into year 5, right? About halfway through from where it is now. What was going on, right? Like, what do you remember? What's memorable about 5 years ago, 4 years ago?
And the reason he asked this is there's a statistic that says within 5 years, most companies will fail. So what did
it's
your
not just most? It's like an overwhelmingly it's like a 90-some% fail. So if you've gotten here, you've grown the business. What are we thinking? What's your
I think the biggest change that in mental change in mindset was that when you start the business, you're still learning yourself. It's very hard for you to hire someone to do the work because you don't even know what it entails yourself.
Man, do I get that.
So that would be your challenge in your early years. But then at year 5, you're at that stage that you pretty much got it or not.
Right.
Either continue or you lost it. And so you're pretty much, you can call yourself a seasoned professional if you survive 5 full years. And you can break down tasks, you can create job descriptions, and you can seek for help. So I think the biggest move for us was that we were not trying to continue to do everything by our own selves and work those hours, but we were like, okay, what can we hire people for? And then at that time, we hired people that were...
How big was your company going into year 5 as far as the office side?
That would be year 2017. And I think we brought in some additional dispatchers, 1 or 2. We brought in a person who was monitoring the hours of service. And I think that's it.
So 5-6 people total working on that?
5-6 people, which we were able to. They knew what they are doing, so they started, taking on not only the load but the responsibility of it as well, and own that part of the business of the responsibility of the job description.
How many drivers did you have at this time too?
Well, if we had 15 trucks, naturally we have about, say on average maybe 2 drivers, give or take, per truck. In terms of, for example, one driver that finishes the round, somebody else drives the truck right away while the other person has home time. We also have local drivers who are doing the local delivery. So my estimation would be probably around 30.
Right. Okay. So, and this is year 5. Was there anything you were trying to push for or towards at this point? Like was there a strategy that you were taking, or is it just still
from year 3, which would be 2014, on?
Yeah.
And year 5 was not too far from that. Our biggest goal was to be safe.
Okay.
To improve, to maintain our at that time good score.
Okay.
So we recognize the value of the good safety score.
Right.
How you're being treated by the brokers, how you're being treated by the DOT.
Right.
When your truck gets to the weight station for the inspection, then and you have good score, they look favorably at you.
Of course, yeah.
They know that you're trying to do everything by the book. So we recognize the value of it, and we are trying to structure and optimize our safe performance. So we were working with the insurance company to create policies. There was a lot of policy making between the year 3 and 6. There was fleet maintenance policy. There was, the bonus structure for the drivers, for the safe drivers. There was a driver orientation. There was, we were trying to come up with the comprehensive vehicle inspection sheet. Just a lot of different ideas, a lot of different policies that we were trying to bring to life that would...
to stay compliant.
That would help us to optimize our performance in the area of compliance and safety.
Okay. And we're kind of moving forward here, and in terms of like business, right? And I know this hasn't came up as a theme here, but you start hiring on people, right? You said like about 5 years. You start trying to delegate the load off, right? Was there something that you were like, kind of where I'm trying to go was this view of maybe trying to get more of the business off of your plate? Things that you can delegate. Was it trying to get off your plate? Because the question I'm trying to get to is more of like a work-life balance. You hear this a lot in business. What is your thoughts on that? Is there something? Does it exist? Work-life balance. You know what I mean? Like, is it harmony? You hear a lot of people that have different takes on it. What is your view on like what it should be as an entrepreneur, as some person that runs the business? What should it be?
I think there are 2 types of people. One type is It's your 8 to 5 guys. They are not even interested in looking at themselves as entrepreneurs, because our company is open to offer a share of the ownership of the company, but not across the board, obviously, but for people who are willing to actually own it and everything that goes with it. So basically, your 8 to 5 person is a person who is interested in making money. Maybe they perform well, but they are just operating within that job description. Entrepreneurial people are people who brought in the vision, who say if they spend 50 hours a week, 50 hours a week in that department, their expertise is very valuable, because there are no better people who can give the advice, what shall we do to streamline that, to structure this process. And people who actually grow to that point of executive position and owning at least that area of their expertise, to where they can offer the policy making ideas and so on and so forth. Those are the people with entrepreneurial spirit. Now, those people, at least for a period, for a certain season, they will be consumed with work a lot until maybe a point where they can finish that process of structuring, of streamlining, of hiring people, of training them, and that takes years, not days. Then I'm looking at my own life. You were asking about year 5. By that year 5, with the exception of maintenance, I was involved in everything. I was booking loads. I was doing pretty much everything that
you were the business, basically.
Yeah,
every part
there
of
was
it.
Except for the maintenance. I wasn't hands-on with maintenance, and I wasn't driving myself. But that was not healthy. So say, for example, if it was continuing for another 5 years, I would have probably quit by now, because that would be not healthy. But say, how did it change from that point to now? Say, in the areas where I have people who I trust, who know what they are doing, I have very limited knowledge of what's going on. They own that part of. They lead those departments.
And how was that handing off those roles? Because I mean, you're talking about giving off administrative roles, big parts of your company, in order to for you completely trust them to run that part of the company. Was that difficult for you to do?
Yeah, there's like paralyzed man starting to walk. It was like very very difficult process, but you know the theory. In theory, that you should do it. A lot of people are talking about it, but the practical aspect, you just need to give them freedom. You need to honor. I'm a man that I'm trying to honor every reasonable as much as I can. Maybe Edward will have something else to say, but I'm trying to honor every reasonable suggestion and try to scrutinize it and say, hey, let's do it if I think it's going to work. So that's a blessing. That's a big not only the burden off, but it brings you comfort to know that they're equals. The people that you look at as equals, not just people that are doing just a little bit of the less important tasks, but people that you can have a meeting and have a valuable expertise from. Mm-hmm. If you don't delegate it completely to them, it'll never be the that heavy-weighted input.
Right. So in a way, it was pretty painful to give up those parts of your business. And while we're on the topic of pain and stuff like that, when you were growing Advantage, growth is painful. At least in my industry, me growing my company, every time we grew, it hurt. What was that like for Advantage?
2014, that was the biggest exponential growth from 3 trucks to 10 or 11. That's when we had accidents. And that I don't recommend. That's why I don't recommend people to set financial goals as number one goals, because if you do, that's how you will operate. You will have just exponential equipment acquisition, and you will neglect the other areas that are very important in business for it to streamline well.
What do you think they should focus on?
I think they should focus, like we already talked about it, on bring in every small aspect of the business to perfection.
Okay.
Make sure they have enough people to sustain that.
Right.
And that will be a good base to build on. If you don't have that, don't try to build it quickly.
You think there's a way that you can grow a company without any pain being involved in it, without it being hard, suffering those growth spurts?
Well, it'll be hard, but like pain is different. Pain is a different word, because like pain is like where you are now forced to not just work overtime. You're forced to now reinvent the business to
you're reaping what you sowed,
right,
basically.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, because I would kind of jump in here since I work here, we had a really big growth year, just like a lot of other companies. But we had a really heavy growth year,
like last year, or what?
Last year was an extremely heavy growth year. In your opinion, is there a way? Like, I'll just kind of reiterate: is there a way to make growth of any sort not as painful, or at the very least to limit your pain? Because like, there's gonna be things where you screw up, you'll make mistakes, just because you've never handled as much.
You brought up last year, Edward. Last year, if you notice, was yes, we've experienced growth, but it was not a painful growth last year. We didn't have anything that we could go back and say, well, it was so painful, because I think prior to that growth, we've had the team members that were fully trained and capable. They knew their job well.
Right.
In 2014, the difference is in 2014 we didn't have that, and we've prioritized the growth over. We neglected some of the other areas that we shouldn't. So what I'm thinking is, to answer your question, if there is any way to build a business without pain, there is avoidable pain and unavoidable pain. Unavoidable pain is just if you are in the business, every business has its own pain. For example, if you're a doctor, you're going to see people that you did everything that you could, but a person has passed away. And it's a pain to see it. If you are in the industry, whatever industry it is, it has its own pain. For example, supply chain. Those are factors that you have no control of. You're going to run across dissatisfied customers that are unfair to you. What are you going to do? But there is pain that is avoidable. And I know I'm repeating myself at this point, but avoidable pain is the pain where you don't cut corners and you don't take the unnecessary risk. In our business, it's a very every industry is unforgiving, but our industry especially is very unforgiving. Any incident translates into tens and maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we don't want to cut corners. We want to bring every aspect to perfection. And then once you know that you've done everything that you should have done properly, and something happened that is outside of your control, you will still have peace. Yeah. Because, it happened, and no, you didn't make a mistake. It was unavoidable. That's a big part of it. It's very comforting.
To kind of have that mindset of like, there's things will just hit the fan. You know what I mean? We will mess up. We will make mistakes. I'll parlay into this question. What mistake, and you might have to think a little bit here, but what mistake do you think you learned most from? Or what is something that if you could go back, you'd do it differently? And not something that, like,
would you do anything differently if you can go back? Restart Advent. Would you do anything differently?
Of course.
And I know you talked about like the logbook aspect, but is there something else in terms of just, well, I guess another direction?
I would say different would be focusing more on foundational principles, on safety, on compliance, on the right hire, not the hasty hiring because we need the driver, truck is sitting, but on the, hiring patiently the best of the best. I've been hiring people all my life, but sometimes you're under a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
So to learn how not to give in to industry pressures and stand for the highest quality, and not to bend your back, not to change your strategic goals for tactical wins. That's probably another mistake that I've done. And maybe invest more in people, in terms of giving them more opportunities to send them to professional seminars, those type of things, instead of just relying on people figuring it out. So those are some of the things that
well said.
that could have been done differently on my end.
Yeah. Did you have something?
No, go for it.
No, I think a lot about this this aspect where you keep talking about, you've brought it up a couple times, but it's about not having money as the driving factor, right? And then now that you've kind of matured into where you are now, right, in terms of running your own business, you talk a lot about compliance. I'm hearing a lot of it's a lot more risk management and a lot more. I think there's this guy, Alex Hormozy, he speaks of this law of zero. No matter what you have, no matter how great your business is, no matter how much money, times zero, it's zero. You know what I mean? So, and this is more of a managerial advice. And I know you just mentioned more investing into people, but you've hired a lot of people. Has there been a strategy? And you've been hiring people for a long time. Has there been a strategy, or what do you look for in terms of, hey, this person will grow a business? Like, because a lot of business owners that we talk to, a very big thing, a theme is, I can't get someone to help. Like, I can't get good people. In your opinion, what is good people?
And how do you find them?
And how do you find them? What do you look for?
The mistake of that statement is that everybody is looking for a good person to be able to step in and pick it up from here and just grow the business. And this is just an unreal task. That will never be, that person needs to be raised within the company, my opinion. So it's like when you have a ministry, the best minister is somebody who starts with opening the door. So my idea is, the character of a man supersedes its talents and professional abilities.
That's well said.
And then the character and desire, I should add. If that man has a character and the willingness, the desire to do it.
To learn?
To learn and to take on that, say, executive position of growing the business. So that would be the prerequisite, in my opinion. So I'll be believing in that person. I'll be looking at that person. That person will get to the point that he'll be capable professionally to continue.
We're talking from a hiring point of view here. So when you're hiring, you're looking for somebody that has the desire to grow into an executive position, or is that something more you're kind of watching in your team? Who am I seeing that's hungry to grow? Or is that something you want to see from, base one?
Walking through the door.
That's a very good question. When we hire a dispatcher, for example, we are not necessarily looking at that person as potentially
next operations manager.
Next operations manager. We are looking at this position as somebody who can do this job description well. But then people show interest. People show ambition. People show curiosity of the tasks that are outside of their job, for tasks that are outside of their job descriptions. People show care for the company. People show that they want to be integral part of the future of the company. So those are the people that I want to keep around and invest them and give them the opportunity to grow. But also I wanted to say one more thing. I think many times I mentioned that money should not be the top of your list, but if you are a businessman, you should not deceive yourself in terms of working for free. So you have to have a healthy balance. So the check mark to say, how is my team, how are we going to check on ourselves? How well are we doing? So obviously, when we look at P&L, and if your staff is working hard, then you want to see what your margin is. You want to see that your business activity produces healthy margin. So now that in connection with the good, healthy atmosphere and the entrepreneurial spirit of the company will allow you to say that, okay, this year or this period of time was successful for us. I would say that my boss, former boss that I worked for, gave me very good advice one time when I was younger professional. He said, spend for function, not for fashion. And I would say that when people who are entrepreneurs, they maintain that spirit, that understanding that, okay, we want to spend for the functionality, we want to invest in company, in people, not for fashion, if you know what I mean. That would be a huge positive thing on the part of the person who leads the company. Because look, if you have someone who is going to, company produces profit.
Right.
Company produces margin. Company grows. But then at the end of the day, the owners can eliminate, or I mean, how do I put it? Can be the only people who benefit from that growth. So you can just take that growth, take that margin, take that net profit at the end of the year, and leave the company with the same assets, with this, Then you can live lavish lifestyle.
Yeah.
While the company is just pretty much, you view the company as the source of supporting your lavish lifestyle. That's your only desire. That's how many people look at the business that they own. This is the business that the main goal for that business is to sustain the lifestyle that I want to have.
Yeah.
So I completely despise that kind of view, because not only that this is very selfish view, but you by doing that you
it's very transactional.
be transactional. You send the wrong message to everybody who's under you. You're almost crippling their mindsets, how their idea, their philosophy of life.
Right.
Secondly, you're betraying them in a way, because the people who believed in you and who sided with you, who are standing with you, they are not there to just work. They're not your slaves, even though you pay them for their labor. But yes, you compensate their work hours, but you're not creating any opportunities for them in the long run by doing that.
I got a question, because like you look like great companies, like companies that have just like, there's no question that this company is like phenomenal. Like in my opinion, Amazon, phenomenal company. What they've been able to do. I mean, I'm that's totally outside of our industry, but one thing that they preach on, at the very least, the owner, obviously Jeff Bezos. I was watching an interview the other day, and he said that creating an environment inside the company of where innovation is like that you're allowing and it's open for innovation to happen, right? So from what I've witnessed is that if that comes down to environment of like how work is done at this place. What, in your opinion, how do you view that? Because if the company's not innovating, it'll die. That's just what happens. How do you see innovation? Because I understand trucking is a very, let's just say it's an older industry. It's a truck, driver, load, deliver, that's it. You know what I mean? But what in terms of innovation have you tried to allow or you know what I mean? Because you spoke about freedom, but can you elaborate on that?
Good question, Ed. And a good question from a good person that brings in a lot of innovation, a lot of ideas, and actually this is much appreciated, because yes, we have a tendency to, once we get to the point that things are working, we get comfortable. We are not looking for things that are working better.
Yeah.
So we're stuck to the old ways. And maybe it's an age thing. My age, you know,
We're not that old.
not at old, but you know, you got to your comfort zone, said, okay, well, this operates well, you know, let's just duplicate and repeat it day after day. So it's almost like you get to the point that you're almost, at times you're almost opposing any kind of innovation. But the difference between the idea innovation is a idea that has gone through the testing process, that can be defended as an idea that will improve the processes or the operations of the business. So the difference between just an idea, because some people, they mix up their idea with the innovation.
A lot of good ideas.
A lot of good ideas, but at that point, the idea is not the innovation. Show me. Let's test it. Let's test drive it. Let's prove it.
Let's implement it.
Let's try to maybe implement it all together or for the test drive and see how functional it'll be. And what kind of improvement it'll bring. And
Does it actually? Is it real improvement, or is it like?
Is it a real improvement? Now, is this improvement affecting any other areas or any other departments? Is this a healthy improvement? Now, is this improvement is in conformance with our strategic goals and ideas, strategic direction of the company? That's another thing, because you may have an idea. Well, let's just go start hauling the grain because it pays more today. It's an innovation. Let's just get this. But hey, let's look at the big picture.
Right. I'm interested in this. What would your advice be to other business owners? Because like in my position in the company, a lot of it, what I try to do is just, and that's more of kind of to who I am. That's where my brain goes, right? But it wouldn't have happened if at the very least there wasn't some sort of openness to the idea, right? Because I came in like knowing nothing, absolutely nothing. There was, I'll tell this story, and this is more about me, but and where you've showed like really, I think, such just very mature managing skill that I didn't realize then, and that now I'm like looking like, man, that was like such a genius move. That was much younger, well, still young, but I was dispatching, right? I actually came into the business to just do logbooks and just watch hours. Like that's actually what I came in for. So if anyone's in the industry, like that's all I did. But I was like, I figured out most of it because it was just all it's just all computer, right? And then I was, call it promoted or whatever it is, and I was moved more into the dispatching side, right? Because we needed it. And I wasn't really doing anything else anyway. And so I had I would struggle to just cover like one load. Like, to be honest, it's embarrassing to say this. I cannot believe it, but like one load like every 3-4 days. Horrible. And we run like thousands of loads a year, okay? And I can't get one. And Oleg tried a couple different like, hey, like, you know, like, let's try this, this kind of showed me here and there. And then one time he was like, he hit me with this thing. I was so shocked. He was like, hey, if we're not getting production, you know, we're not going to be able to to keep people on. So he's like, hey, like we're going to have to start docking pay. And I took it. And I think maybe it's a generational thing, but I was so offended. I was like, how dare he threaten my income? And like, because like initially it was like, this is not my fault. Everything is so difficult. I'm trying my best. And I wasn't. But what happened is like something inside me triggered, just like flipped, where I was like, all right, if I don't figure this out, I have no choice.
Fight or flight type of moment.
Right. And I think from that point on, like I started tracking it. I started doing things a little bit differently. Nothing else was taught. It was just the correct motivation was put there. And he doesn't do this to everyone. He doesn't walk around and say, I'm a Dr. Bay. I've never heard of him doing it to anyone else, like in that way. But when you did it, like I think like there has been times like on very hot days, like when you get kind of lucky. Like I think I've probably booked like 18, 19 loads a day. You know what I mean? Like there's been days like that. But I'd never do that unless I was like, even had the competence like to like, okay, I can, right? I totally can. I think that was like a very experienced move to make. And maybe you didn't know that was going to be the result, But man, I've like looking back at it now, I was like, man, that was the only way that would have worked. So in terms of managing, and I know I just kind of said that story, but in terms of managing, has there been an attitude that you've had to your employees that does allow the business to grow and gives that person that this isn't just a 9 to 5, like that this is like actually a place where you're valued, but also your input is valued, if it's productive.
I think I already answered that, Edward.
Oh, he did. I mean, I meant more of the aspect of like, I'm thinking very small business. Is there something that, this is actually where I was going. Is there something, because you talk about strategy, the general strategy of the company. When we talk about smaller companies, they say they can't find people, good people. We hear that a lot. How in terms of like, do you make your strategy very known, right? Like, is it like, do you have very open communication, very open door policy? Is there something that you think that owners or at the very least operational managers should have? Like,
why is it so much easier for you to find employees versus another trucking company, let's say?
Oh, that's an interesting question.
Wow. When you're talking about employees for the office, administrative employees or the drivers?
You know what?
Let's do both.
Let's do both. I was going to say.
The drivers, again, once they come on board, we treat them as a family. So not only, I've been accused of overpaying drivers many times.
You have been accused.
But I
How
defend
dare
it.
you?
No. I've been, people,
it's been brought up. Let's just say that
people have an idea that it's not business. It's not justified to pay what we were paying at times.
Like people didn't like that you were doing that? Is that what you're saying?
Well, because obviously you pay your drivers more. It's directly.
Oh, wow, this was a real thing.
Yeah, straight up.
Direct,
oh, wow.
Straight up, directly cutting into your margin.
Mm.
But then I defended my point when we put a pencil to it. And what is the cost of bringing a new driver? Not only from this standpoint of him applying and doing the orientation, which we have, it's also pretty intensive. Yeah. But, the damages to the equipment. And we have new drivers, it's inevitably, and we have to swallow it. We just factor it in. When you have a driver who is new, he's going to scratch your trailer. He's going to, things are going to happen, and they are not cheap. So now you're trying to save maybe $10,000 a year on the seasoned professional settlement, for example. This 10,000 saving translates into you maybe losing him and hiring a new guy. So one incident will cost more than that difference in the settlement. And other things. So like we were talking about innovation and ideas exchange, you have to defend your position why you're trying to do that. So that's one. Secondly, it's not only for employee retention, but it's also to for reputation of the company. So people know us not only as a well-paying company, but people know us as the company that they get treated as a family. So people that were leaving us to be their own company or to be their own owner-operator, what we do for them, we provide them as any information or guidance they need to open the company, any help. Even afterwards, when they come for consultation, we'll give them consultation. We shake hands. We pray for them. Things don't work out, they know they have a place they can come back to. So those are the things that we are known for, and I believe that creates a value. That creates a value, and that reputation is helping us. Because right now, when other companies were struggling for the drivers, we are having like 40+ applications
sitting on our desk, straight up.
Desk,
not even a joke. Like
that we can't
actually like 40 applications.
We just don't have trucks for.
Yeah.
So we've reached our time limit. I just wanted to have one last question here, and it is loaded. So I mean, you can answer it briefly. But you've been in the industry, running this company for about 10 years. You said, what's next for you? What's the future of Advantage? What's the future of Oleg? What is
answer
Oleg?
Both.
Yeah, answer both, I guess.
I'm interested.
Before getting into that, I didn't finish the previous question for the administrative
internal
people.
employees.
Internal employees. strategic goals of the company or where the company is going is discussed or is pretty known within the narrower circle of administrative employees than the whole entire office per se. Because again, I would say that is in the circle of people who have that entrepreneurial spirit. Because those people the other people are not interested in where you're going if they are looking at their job as just a source of income for time.
Just for the paycheck.
That's one thing. Secondly, maybe again that's in kind of my defense of how I'm trying to kind of give out the some of the duties or whatever. One of our strategic goals is to be able to have the truck terminal in town. So we've made some significant steps. We've acquired the land. Our final plat is in the city for the review right now, and executive order. So literally in a week or two, we may get a green light to start the construction. And I'm going to say this, that the biggest input and pretty much the final look of it is not by my design, by the design of some of the people. They were entrusted to...
Some of the people, yeah. It was definitely a team effort. There's 100%.
No, I'm being real here. Edward, for example, he was taking a task on directly communicating with our architects and our civil engineers to make the final plat the way that they wanted to look at it. And my thinking is this, that they will need it to their liking more than I need it to my liking.
And why is that?
Because they're young, they still have a long ways to go. And because, inevitably sooner or later that will be their
they're going to be your successors, basically.
They'll be my successors. And then as far as for me, I don't know if I have the answer of what my future will look like, but my desires, where I want to be. I think that after we complete this part of the strategic goal,
right?
After we have the terminal, the maintenance facility, right, the offices, then I will be working more actively on the transitioning to where I can kind of step out from the position I'm in and concentrate more on. I want to concentrate more on ministry.
That pretty much answers that question I was going to ask. Being an entrepreneur yourself, I mean, we didn't really get into the story of like you hustling leather jackets in Ukraine and stuff like that. I wish we would have gotten into that, but time is cut for now. But do you ever think, just kind of knowing even like how you are as a person, do you ever think you will be able to take the entrepreneur out of yourself? Do you ever think you're ever going to be like, because it's not about the money at the end of the day. It's also about the excitement of building something, of creating something, of innovating something, Right. There's the thrill of doing that. Do you ever think there's going to be a point where, okay, I've grown my business, I've built my business, I'm satisfied, I don't want to do it again, Or do you always think there's always going to be that hunger to do something?
The next
thing, just... I'm young, and I think that, forever I'm going to be like this. I don't know. I'm asking you.
The next business.
The next business, I guess.
It could be anything, you know what I mean? Yeah. Well, I guess inevitably most things turn into a business, but...
Yeah.
I think I would rather build people, and like when we were talking about consulting or help people to launch, to be successful in their own ideas.
Yeah, that's really
in
cool.
the businesses that they are trying to build, than to build it myself again.
Yeah.
I think that I've done my fair share.
Less headache.
Yeah. The crazy part is every single person I've asked so far, both myself, Phil, Max, everybody that we've had on the podcast as far, the one constant variable I've seen is there is a genuine excitement that even for me, I'm very, 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 very early on into my journey as an entrepreneur and stuff like that, but my retirement plan is I want to be able to consult on hey, you have a small business. Let me help you build this business, you know? And there's that satisfaction, that gratification of doing that, you know? So you think your life as an entrepreneur plays into the part where now, like, you've built it, you've done it, now you want to see other people do it. And it gives you the same sort of satisfaction as yourself building it.
That is true.
That's 20. So you're now coming up on 25 years of building businesses. I know that's not directly, but like in certain ways. No, sorry. It is directly,
because when you were an entrepreneur, you were an intrapreneur at Work USA. You're an entrepreneur within the company, building that company.
Entrepreneur meaning like you're the entrepreneur inside the company. So
yeah,
that's I'm not gonna hold you any longer. I'm sure we'll have you on again. I think there will be enough to say, and even I know that we're a decade in now, but I think it'll be about 3 years here. I think we'll have so much to